Christmas in May. 5,000 jobs for the city of Detroit, and the mayor is determined to see Detroiters get them. Mayor Mike Duggan is here. Also, abortion debates hit a boiling point. What does that do come election time? And we'll preview the policy conference on Mackinac. Today is Sunday, May 26, 2019, and this is Flashpoint. Hi, welcome to Flashpoint. I hope you're enjoying your holiday weekend and hopefully taking time to pause tomorrow to remember those who made the ultimate sacrifice in defending our nation. This is the week that we'll be heading up to Mackinac Island for the annual policy conference. We're going to preview that coming up a little bit later on. But first, a few of the topics that will no doubt get a lot of attention at the Grand Hotel. Is it possible that Roe versus Wade could be overturned? That is the aim of several abortion bills circulating in a number of states. It's not so much about changing state law, really, as it is pushing the Supreme Court to get involved, and it has potentially enormous electoral implications. We're going to talk about that this morning. But we're going to start with what seems to me the most dramatic business development for the city of Detroit since I came here more than 20 years ago. For the first time in a generation, an auto plant is going to be built in Detroit so that a critically important vehicle can be built in Detroit. And if the mayor has anything to say about it, built by Detroiters. Mayor Mike Duggan is here to talk about that first today on Flashpoint. Well, it is a cumbersome, rather complicated deal, but as the dust starts to clear, we see the city of Detroit looking at about 5,000 new jobs coming to the first new auto plant built in the city in a generation. Let's talk about it with the mayor of Detroit, Mayor Mike Duggan. You've had a lot of, it's been an interesting couple of months for you, but this morning I just want to focus on what's going on with this enormous project. Because I believe the other day when you were announcing it, you called this the most exciting day of your administration.
You know, it's just remarkable. There hasn't been an auto assembly plant built in America in the last decade outside the South. And those that were built in the South were built on 600 acres of farmland. So for the city of Detroit to try to acquire a bunch of private property and do it in an urban setting was remarkable. But Governor Whitmer was helpful, Cindy Estrada, the UAW, of course, Tom LeWan did a great job, and the community came together. But I'm not sure anybody else would have tried to acquire 215 acres in 60 days.
It felt like you were sweating it out, this deadline. Was it ever in doubt? Or was this where Chrysler wanted to be and it was going to happen?
No. This started with a conversation I had with Sergio Marchionne a year and a half ago. And I said, all I'm asking for you is let us compete. And he said, I don't see how you can do it. You don't have any land. I said, well, I could close St. Jean, close a street. And he said, look, I'll let you compete. Well, every time they cut from 7 sites to 5 sites to 3 sites, we were like the last guy clinging by our fingernails. And at the end, we convinced them that the best-selling cars in the world are really being made on Jefferson, the Jeep Grand Cherokees, and with Detroit Auto Workers. And shouldn't you want to build on that? And ultimately, I think FCA decided to build on the Detroit Auto Workers.
And the new edition of it, which means so much for our place in the mobility world, and on and on and on. I want to get to the jobs, which is a big piece of this, of course, the central part. As we reported this the other day, one of our questions was how many of these jobs really can go to Detroiters? Someone in your administration called me and said, you know what, a better question might be, if you don't live in Detroit, will you be able to get one of these jobs? Is it that rosy an outlook for Detroiters getting these? Because, as you know, those who voted against this on the city council felt like there weren't enough promises for how many jobs were going to Detroiters.
Yeah, I prefer to vote for the good majority on the city council who did support this. But the one thing I never compromised on, and we gave FCA a lot of what they wanted. We gave the Maroons more than I would have liked. I did not compromise on one thing. I wanted 100% of the jobs that were open outside the current employees to go to Detroiters. And here's the deal that I negotiated with. Detroit at Work, our operation, we'll create a list of eligible Detroiters. And whenever FCA starts to fill the jobs, the first 5,000 or for the next 30 or 40 years, they have to interview and hire from our list first. And I never gave an inch on that, and that's the provision that we've got. So we anticipate that FCA is going to start their hiring of their first 4,000 or 5,000 probably in September. And that means that we have about 8 or 9 weeks to put together a list. And the preference is not all Detroiters. The preference is who's on the Detroit at Work list. And I'm certainly hopeful we're going to put 15,000 eligible Detroiters on that list, ready to hand FCA by the end of August.
We've seen problems before, though. We saw this with the Little Caesars Arena. Qualified people with the necessary skill set. Do these need to be people who are trained and already have a skill set, or
so remember, Little Caesars Arena was iron workers and construction industry, where we have relatively few in Detroit. Here, these are production workers on an auto line. You need to be 18 years old. You have to have a high school degree or a GED equivalent. You're going to have to pass a basic interview. You're going to have to pass a drug test. Those are the qualifications. These are jobs that if you have a high school degree, FCA will train you to do. And so what we're going to do is Detroit at Work is going to become one of the major employment agencies in America. And we are going to hold probably 80 or 100 job fairs with a couple hundred people.
That's not hyperbole in America.
So here's what's going to happen. We're going to be holding job fairs on a daily basis in churches and community groups, and you're going to come out. And not just are you going to fill out the forms, we're going to make sure you have your high school degree, we're going to make sure you have your ID, we're going to give you a sample test so you get ready for the FCA tests when you go in. We're going to give you interview skills. We probably will run a drug test ahead of time and let you know marijuana is legal in Michigan, but it's not eligible for somebody to work in an auto plant. You better make darn sure if you got it in your system, it's clear 45 days ahead of time before you get drug tested. We're going to do all this, and Detroit at Work, I hope, is going to hand FCA a list of 15,000 eligible people. And the question will be, is our list good enough? Because Detroiters have the opportunity to get first shot. So anybody who's watching, we're going to start taking the applications about mid-June, but you can go to DetroitAtWork.com right now, put in your cell phone number, we'll text you as soon as it's open, and you can also get the information on what you have to have ready for when we start. But we're going to find out how good we are.
If there's an icky part of this, the modern realities are the way that incentives work for corporations. These jobs are going to pay a very healthy, about $60,000 a year.
At the top end, right.
But if you add in all of the incentives that Fiat Chrysler is getting, whether it be land or tax breaks, it works out to about $48,000 per job. Does that bother you, or is that just kind of how it is today?
Tom Lewan showed City Council, and the reason we got so much support is the last 3 plants that went to Alabama, that went to South Carolina, went to Tennessee, we were 1/3 of the incentives. Those southern states. In other words, those southern states paid triple the per job incentive. So that's the reality. This is $60 million from the city to get a $2.5 billion investment. And not only do Detroiters get the shot at the 5,000 jobs, for the next 30 or 40 years, as long as that plant is open, they have to interview and hire from our list first. Nobody's ever gotten a 30-year guarantee of hiring your own city.
The other part, though, that is troubling a number of Detroiters is the rich always get richer. And you've got Raquel Castaneda-Lopez on the council, said she just, out of principle, could not support something that was going to enrich the Maroons as much as this deal did. They walk away with more than $40 million. Right. And what about that part of this? Does any of that bother you with the way that this land had to come together? As I mentioned, very cumbersome, what you were trying to do.
What we did was pretty remarkable. When Mayor Coleman Young bought the land for the Chrysler Jefferson plant and for the Poletown plant, he had the power of eminent domain. You could condemn the land. That's been taken away by the Supreme Court. If I had the power of eminent domain, could I knock $5 million off the Maroon purchase price? Probably, although it would have been a long legal process. But if you look at what we spent in total, it's less than half of what the city spent 30 years ago. And so the Maroons had an 80-acre parcels. They had a lease that they were getting $3 million a year for. They had a railroad track running down the middle. It was an extremely valuable piece of property. And we disagreed on what the value was, and we compromised in the middle.
Got there. Metro Times reported that Tony Suave and his company, which has always been a large political supporter of yours, just out of the blue last fall decided to buy 2 parcels of land that were solid waste disposal sites for a relative song, about $60,000 each, and that now he turns around and is able to turn that into some. Is that? And the city's saying that it was just coincidence.
Stop.
Okay.
You know what he turned it around for? You know what we paid him?
Land.
$100,000. That is all he was paid for those properties, was $100,000.
But well, he got isn't it 30 acres of land on along Van Dyke?
He paid $1.3 million for those. All he got was $100,000 for those 5 acres. We paid the Great Lakes Water Authority 5 times as much per acre. We paid the Maroons 10 times as much per acre. And this is why not a single member of City Council objected to that. Is Tony Suave got $100,000 out of $60 million. But this is the way this stuff goes. You're going to get second guess.
As I said, of course. And in fact, because there's so much scrutiny right now of the District Detroit and what a lot of Detroiters feel didn't happen, I think there's a lot of people wanting to see better accountability and better built-in promises. And so I guess I'm asking for both of those here. What kind of promises do you think you have from Chrysler?
Now you've gone to apples and oranges. I had nothing to do with the District Detroit deal.
Yeah,
okay?
Absolutely, but haven't we learned from it, or have we not?
I did learn from it. In every deal I've done since I've been here, we got binding commitments, whether it was the Ford deal, whether it was the recent Waymo deal for the self-driving cars.
Right.
Now it's this deal. So I can't be judged on what past administrations or what the emergency manager did in making a deal. But in this case,
But it presents you with the reality of having to show people, look, this is why this is a better deal, right?
Again, every deal stands on its own, but the contract says Detroiters have 100% of the opportunities for those jobs before you can offer them to a single suburbanite. That's clear cut. I got enforceable powers, and we in FCA are already starting to plan these job fairs. So I'm not going to debate what past people did on their deals. That's their deal. This deal, I don't know any other city in America would have tried this. But if you told anybody a year ago we would land 5,000 jobs paying up to $56,000 a year on the east side of the city of Detroit, and Devin, you know what we've already got? We've already got 2 logistics centers and a supplier plant in line to come in, another 1,500 to 2,000 jobs on the east side of Detroit to support the FCA project. So the thing about assembly plants, these are gold, because these are the guys who put the cars together. There's 8 times as many jobs making the dashboards, the steering wheels, the seats, and they want to be located close. We're going to have first shot at every one of those.
So the supplier chain hopefully builds up right around.
It will help us. It'll help Macomb County. It'll probably help the whole state of Michigan.
Mayor, there's a lot for us to talk about. Hopefully you and I'll get some time to chat up on Mackinac about other topics that are facing the city right now, but really big news, and thanks for coming in.
Good to see you, Devin.
You bet. We'll be back with more on Flashpoint right after this.
Before there was Michigan, there was the mighty Muskegon, and Ice Mountain is helping protect it. For 17 years, our Environmental Stewardship Fund has awarded grants to restore wildlife habitats, preserve our wetlands, and protect the watershed. Over the next 20 years, Ice Mountain has committed millions of dollars to protect Michigan's natural resources for this generation and those to come. Ice Mountain, part of the Nestle Waters family.
Beck's Howard School of Media Arts began in 1970. We have 3 programs: the broadcast media arts, kind of the personality and the editing side of broadcast. You've got the digital media arts program, which is going to be pre-production, production, and post-production on the video editing with some motion graphics. And we have the graphic design program, which is print and web-based design.
I really get a kick out of seeing when the light bulb pops on, when they get it, and seeing the progression over that 12-month span.
It's Gardner White versus the competition, and you win. Only Gardner White gives you the guaranteed lowest prices. Cool off with the all-new Tempur-Breeze and save $700, plus get a free 50-inch Amazon Fire 4K TV.
We will not be undersold on any mattress.
Only Gardner White gives you the lowest payments, just $10 a month, no interest for 60 months, and no down payment. Only Gardner White gives you free same-day delivery. Your sleepless nights are over. Don't overpay. Get a mattress steal Sunday and Monday.
Welcome back. You may recall after the Brett Kavanaugh confirmation of the Supreme Court, I suggested that we would have an election in 2020 that could boil down to the abortion issue. Nothing that has happened in the last 3 weeks has changed my thinking on that. But what would that mean? Let me turn to my political strategists. And they should feel free, by the way, to talk me out of my theory on this. I'll be more than welcome to hear that. But here from Alper Strategies is Jill Alper, and from Mitchell Research is Steve Mitchell. Good to have you both back with me again. Jill, let me start with that. I really have sensed over especially what we're watching, the temptation that states like Alabama really trying to throw this throw a hook into the Supreme Court on this, that this is where we're headed. And with all the issues that we have going on right now, it'd be stunning if we had a single issue election. But am I on to something?
Well, I think you are onto something. This is a conversation that's going to happen, and I think it could be just like healthcare was to the 28 election, abortion could be to the 2020 election, in just polls hot off the press, and we know that the conversation will go on and things may change, but in the high 50s, whether it's 57, I think, in a Politico poll, or 56 in a HuffPo poll, people are saying, you know, what the heck? We're against what's happening in Alabama. And nearly 2/3 of the people in the country, a CBS poll, are saying that they are pro-choice. Roe v. Wade was decided in 1973, so.
But, Steve, as we saw in the last election, these would be sort of the equivalent of general election figures, and it depends on where these votes are, where this would be decided, right?
Well, you know, I looked at a lot of polling myself over the last couple of days on this, and in fact, the numbers stay almost identical for decades.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody moves on this. This is a deeply held belief. But when you ask people, are you pro-choice or pro-life, all the polling I saw is that there's a gap of about 4 or 5 points between those who say they're pro-choice and pro-life. And it's about 4% more for pro-choicers than there are for pro-lifers. There's so many nuances in this. When you ask about getting into any abortions into the second trimester, then you start seeing a pushback and real opposition. On the issue of Roe v. Wade, by a 2-to-1 margin, they think Roe v. Wade should continue, and that they don't want to change Roe v. Wade. So it depends on how you do it. Even on this issue of the fetal heartbeat, which I thought would be big numbers, there's only a 6-point gap, 48 to 42. And I saw that in another poll where it was a 4-point gap on that. So the gap isn't nearly as strong as I thought. I would thought there would be more pushback against this than there is.
Right. I think, can I just say, Devin,
of course.
My friend Jeff Guerin in Washington, D.C. had done a poll, and basically there are about 600 late-term abortions every year that happen in this country, unfortunately. But when you really do get into talking about the issue, people understand, and Roe provides for that instance already, that, oh, in these cases, we would not want a woman to put her life in harm's way.
And yet we see where the way that this is being pushed in a direction that will be largely decided by the make of the Supreme Court, and I think you start to wonder about what happens with precedent there. John Roberts, I think, would end up being the key, maybe the key decider. He has shown some adherence to precedents as an idea, but I want to ask you both, though. I have a certain skepticism, in fact, not skepticism, despair, when we get to single-issue elections. There's so much going on in the world right now for us to debate about immigration, foreign policy, tax policy, infrastructure.
I don't believe this will be a single issue.
You don't? Okay.
I don't. And, you know, I can remember I did some exit polling in 2004 when we had the issue of gay marriage on the ballot. And everybody thought that was going to drive turnout, and both sides are saying this is. So we asked the question, what caused you to vote? And most people said the presidential election. We had 2 people out of 600 that said that they voted as a result of the gay marriage proposal. One voted for it, the other voted against it. So as much as we say these are going to drive it, when I see how close they are, I think that the women, first of all, who would be more strongly pro-choice and who would be voting Democratic, they're voting anyway. They don't like Donald Trump. It may drive a few more religious people. Religiosity has a huge impact on it. Religiosity may drive a few of the more conservative women to vote that may not have voted. At the end of the day, I think it's going to end up as a wash.
Your thoughts, Jill?
Right. Well, I mostly agree with that, though. I do think that the millennials and the rising American electorate, just basically youngers who are not sure that they're into the political thing, if you will, that this could be a turnout issue for younger voters who have tended to vote more for the Democratic Party. So it could be impactful in that way. But in general, I do not.
For generations, we've wondered where the young voters are.
Right.
We always feel like they're engaged.
Though, right? And we saw this in the 2018 election, so we'll see if that trend continues. But I think the interesting question, and I do agree with Steve, is what does this election become about, right? Where you have this strong economy for the first time in 50 years, and the president will throw that out, but he seems to want this election to be about something else, about immigration, about, you know, more cultural and social issues.
Which brings me to another weird question, but both of you, do you think that the president might want to be impeached? he does enjoy playing the persecuted, I think, over the years.
Oh,
it sounds like a strange question, but is there...
Look, there's a reason that the Speaker keeps fighting the left wing and her own party. Don't impeach him, because I think it would be beneficial for the president. He'd love it. He knows they can't remove him from office.
How could we even say that impeachment? But you're right. But impeachment.
Elections are about winning. Elections are about winning, and you do whatever you can. This is not beanball, as somebody once said. This is tough business, this politics. So getting impeached, he saw what it did for Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton's number in a good economy were never higher than when he was impeached, ever.
I was a political director of the Democratic National Committee in the 1998 elections, the only time we beat the 6th-year inch since President Jefferson.
Give me a lot to think about, as I knew you both would. Thanks very much for being here. We'll get you set for Mackinac Island. Sandy Barua is up next on Flashpoint.
With Michigan weather being so unpredictable, spend tax returns and profit-sharing checks where it matters most, your home. Call Ace & Sons today.
Go to the wrong place. Leave your insulation to Ace.
Spas, hot tub, swim spas. Save thousands at the Hot Tub and Swim Spa sale now. Millions of dollars in inventory must be sold. Brand new hot tub slashed. See the amazing Michael Phelps Swim Spa. Free admission at the Suburban Collection Showplace in Nova. Call 1-800-SPA-SALE. That's 1-800-SPA-SALE.
Right now, when you shop at Gardner White, you'll get an extra $100 back for every $500 you spend, with no tax on everything. You can get up to $1,000 instant cash back, absolutely tax-free.
I guarantee you'll overpay anywhere else.
Gardner White guarantees you'll overpay anywhere else. Well, when my neighbor noticed I was sleeping in my car, he sold me his couch for $20. Guess what, Gardner White? That legally counts as anywhere else. He also threw in his old martini set, but my wife made me give it Win-Winfield Law.
You can help save as many as 3 lives.
Who's ready to hear their name read?
More than 300,000 books.
We are going flower shopping.
Kris Jenner and 400 moms to be.
Twitch, you are the father.
It's Ellen's Baby Shower Show.
Ellen, Monday at 3 on Local 4.
Tomorrow, of course, Memorial Day. Then Tuesday, I-75 will be even busier than usual with the annual trek to Mackinac Island for the Detroit Regional Chamber's Policy Conference. Let's talk about it with the head of the chamber. Back with us again, Sandy Barua. In fact, you need to be leaving here right about now to get yourself up to the island. Yes. I want to start with one of the themes this year, which I think is a really noble one, is the idea of being civil, civility in our discourse and in politics. And yet, some of the issues, abortion earlier, issues about the current president, they really seem to break us down when it comes to being civil with each other.
You know, after spending a lifetime in politics in Washington, D.C., I have seen the environment in that town change to the point where things got done because people were able to agree, disagree, but, not be disagreeable about it, right, to where it is today where people don't barely even talk to each other. And civility is actually a key to our democracy, because America is not just a bunch of rules. America is an ethos, it's an idea, and it's about a soul. And if the soul of our nation isn't able to talk to the other souls in our nation, because we're 335 million people in this country, all with 335 million different opinions. And we have to find a way to disagree without being disagreeable. It's critical to our society.
We actually have a decent example taking us up to the island to talk about, because on Friday last week, this agreement that was struck on car insurance rates actually was people talking to each other and seeing bipartisan effort to come together, including the governor. I guess that's hopeful.
Bipartisanship is alive and well in Michigan. I couldn't be more thrilled. I wish I could take credit for it. I wish it happened on the island, right? That would just be so
You didn't arrange that.
No, I didn't. The governor's not working with my marketing team well enough. No, actually, we're going to celebrate that up on the island. But it is, Democrats and Republicans talking, working together, crafting a compromise. As everyone everyone going to be happy with this? No. But are a majority of the people going to be happy about it? Yes. And does it move the ball significantly forward? Absolutely. We're thrilled to support it.
Another topic that will no doubt be discussed a lot, and this takes me back to the first segment, talking with the mayor. I know you're tickled with, try to put into perspective for me how big this Chrysler development is in the city of Detroit.
The FCA deal in Detroit is bigger than the Amazon deal would have been had we got the Amazon deal. When you look at the spin-off jobs, they're going to come from that FCA plant. Suppliers, the supply chain, the suppliers to the supply chain. It is absolutely huge. And also, when you look at the types of people who are going to be getting these jobs, these are people with, good skills that Detroit and this region has a lot of, but they're not the, software engineers and stuff like that. So when you look at the audience that we really need to be paying attention to in this region in terms of getting them good, solid family wage job opportunities, it's deals like the FCA deal that's going to make that happen.
Wow. It's not all good, what we have to discuss up there. We've still got a lot of problems of trying to figure out what's wrong with education in the state of Michigan, but also what we're going to do about the roads that we're all going to feel as we drive up there.
And that's the great thing about the conference. Since most people drive up to the conference, people's antenna is up to the condition of the roads. And listen, big things have gotten done at that conference. The final deal for the Gordie Howe International Trade Crossing, done at the conference. The grand bargain for Detroit's trip through bankruptcy, done at the final deal, done at the conference. I'm really hoping
move of General Motors into the Ren Center.
Yeah, I'm really hoping that roads is an area, because we have all the legislators coming this year. I really want to thank the Republican leadership of the legislature. They are making room in the schedule for all the legislators to be up on the island. The governor's going to use every inch of that real estate in that hotel and every minute on the schedule to do her work. So I'm really thrilled that we might have something. We might move the ball down further on the roads.
We've got a lot of another great lineup of speakers. Who in particular are you curious to hear? We only got about 30 seconds left. And I hate for you to just pick out one or two.
So I think the most highly anticipated speaker is Stacey Abrams, and thank you for agreeing to moderate her. There's so much interest around her. Jeb Bush and John Kasich, Michael Porter and Catherine Gale on the civility in politics and how that matters is going to be huge. It's going to be the media session that we're going to have.
It's going to be fascinating as always. And in fact, Flashpoint next week will be coming to you from the Grand Hotel on Mackinac Island. Have a safe trip, and we'll see you a lot this coming week.
Thanks for being there.
Thanks for being here. You bet. Thank you so much for being here as well. Meet the Press is coming up next. Have a very special Memorial Day, and then have a great week. And we'll see you next week from Mackinac Island for Flashpoint.